What does perfect even mean? Is there even such a thing? Ooh, can we switch up all the rules and imagine a utopia? Darling, I'm just so fed up with these expectations. They keep weighing me down. My heart is begging me to get the hell out of my head. I'm gonna live inside the upside down for a minute and pretend. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa. What does perfect even mean? Is there even such a thing? Ooh, can we switch up all the rules and imagine a utopia? Darling, I'm just so fed up with these expectations. They keep weighing me down. My heart is begging me to get the hell out of my head. I'm gonna live inside the upside down for a minute and pretend. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. And if I say it enough, it gets ingrained in my head, and I start to see. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. 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 Whoa. I've discussed it with myself, and I'm disgusted with the way we're told to have a certain face, a certain weight, because we aren't pixels on a screen. No, we're human, we breathe. Every single thing we see curated, it's overrated. These expectations, they keep weighing me down. My heart is begging me to get the hell out of my head. I'm trying to live inside the upside down for a minute and pretend. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, and if I say it enough, it gets ingrained in my head, and I start to think, honey, I'm a perfect 10. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, honey, I'm a perfect 10. 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 Oh.
And I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our cloudlands when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. And I'll be running, possessed by a low, low voodoo. Fired up like a wolf on a full moon. And we're stuck in a la la land. The tides will turn without us. And I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in real life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. Play me like a bass guitar. Simmer down and mess me up. Tripping like I'm Jimmy at Woodstock. Drive me around in your red Ford. Shivers down my spinal cord. Oh. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? It's time for my first live stream. I've done a couple test runs, had quite a few bugs, got them all worked out. So those of you that are joining me today, thank you for spending some time with me. If anything isn't working properly, please let me know, and we'll get started. So let's give you guys an update on what I've been working on. So Gym Sniper 2 I've been working on this thing for 4 or 5 months now. I don't know. I'm slow. Set this guy up here. So I've been working mostly on Saki Art. Nice. Thanks for joining me. This is going to be a bit of a gong show. It's the first time doing it, so we'll see how she goes. But yeah, so like I was saying, this is the custom backpack that I've been making. I just kind of started playing with it one night and didn't really like it. I thought the shape was a little weird, but I just kind of kept playing with it, and I've actually got it to a point where I kind of like where it's at, and I actually think I'm going to keep it. I was asked the other day how I got it to attach to the sniper, and it's funny. I was just kind of cutting the plot plate, and against all odds, I actually cut a perfect circle, and it actually just friction fits right onto it, which is super nice. So it is a nice setup. Not really. I'm gonna do a video on the setup because it is about as effective as you can get without buying a bunch of equipment. Thank you. They're actually both cell phones. So this one is using NDI, so it's actually a wireless connection. I've been having issues with it working, so hopefully it doesn't cut out. And then this one is actually my everyday phone, and I'm just using an app that actually lets me connect USB to my computer, so hopefully it works. Really didn't want to spend much money on the setup, so that's what we're rolling with. So just let me know if anything happens. So last night I was actually working on the secondary rifle. So I kind of stopped working on the backpack because I wanted to make sure that the rifle was good. This rifle, I don't suspect he'll ever be using it, mainly because I'm also working on, this is basically the sniper rifle that I kind of chopped down and then basically made it into, it's a railgun essentially. So the cool thing about the railgun is if you can see those teeth. So if you guys follow me, you guys know that I 3D print about everything to the point where it's a little ridiculous, but I actually 3D printed a jig that fit on top of these, and then you could individually put the teeth on, glue them on using the jig, and so it actually put them exactly where I needed them to go. So that worked out a lot better than I thought it would. But yeah, so this will be the main weapon. This weapon here is basically just set up for, he has it, and I kind of want to just keep playing with it. So last night I went ahead and added the barrel to it. I thought this gun kind of has a bit of a wimpy barrel. So the one thing that I had issues with is the actual styrene rod. It's on there snug now, and you can see that it's seated into another styrene rod, but they were off by a little bit. So what I ended up doing is using Teflon tape, and I wrapped it around the smaller rod just so that way I can make sure everything was centered once I put it on there. So worked out pretty good. And then how I have it attached right now is basically a magnet, connects like that. So yeah, so that's basically how it's going to be on the gym. But I need to kind of finish playing with this guy because I got some more work to do on the side of the backpack, but I want to make sure that the rifle itself is actually done before I go ahead and finalize everything. So I'm going to be bouncing kind of all over the place tonight. This build's getting really close to being done. So yeah, I'm just going to be going all over the place. The one thing that I noticed last night that I'm going to fix tonight is on the actual rifle itself. Right here it has these little nubbins that go around the rifle. But I noticed last night when I was looking at it that on the bottom they're actually not symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up shaving those off tonight just so that I can maybe put them on myself so that they are actually symmetrical. But yeah, so that's basically where we're at right now. So I'm just going to start working away on this thing. So the 3D printer that you see, so that's my CR10 and it's running right now. So it's basically printing an actual mount for this setup here. I kind of have my one cell phone a little set up awkwardly, and I'm just kind of reprinting a mount so that I can secure it down. So now I'm just going to start shaving off these little nubbins here. I do have plans for a resin printer. So again, I did set up a store mainly just to make the tools that I've been printing available to everyone, so people that don't have 3D printers. And kind of the plans with that is any of the profit that I make on that is going to go towards a resin printer. I've been doing quite a bit of Fusion 360 work, and kind of where I would like to take it is keep printing the tools, but I think the goal would be doing my own 3D printed parts, obviously. Give me 1 second here. So I know there's the big rule about you can't 3D print parts for the competitions, but on this model here, so this is my Jesta that I did. This was my first actual custom build, but you can see here that these rockets themselves, those are 3D printed, and so I designed those and 3D printed them. And then on the back here, this guy's 3D printed, as well as you can kind of see the plates, the armor plates on the back and the front. And so my kind of take on it is you can't use 3D printed parts, which kind of makes sense, but at the same time, all those parts that I printed were basically just option parts, right? So I'm hoping to just start printing my own option parts using resin. Those ones were a lot of work to actually finish. There's actually a lot more work to finishing the parts than it is just to scratch build them when you're not using a resin printer. So I will be getting a resin printer, and hopefully I'll be making some option parts. And you know, the kind of the big picture plan would be working with you guys and basically how's it going, bro builder? Thanks for stopping in. First stream, so it's a bit of a gong show right now, trying to just get through it, but they'll get better. But yeah, so I kind of want to get a resin printer, and then kind of go off of what the community would like for option parts, and maybe use examples that you guys would supply, and then we would, you know, CAD them out, maybe do a stream of it, print it off, and then, you know, make those option parts available to everybody. So that's the plan anyway. But yeah, I know it's a gray area, but I personally think option parts, you know, you take a look at that Jesta, and I could have easily, you know, bought the option rocket launchers for the legs and the option part panels, but at the same time, now it's kind of, you know, I'm the one that's actually designing it, so there is a little bit more thought that goes into it than just, you know, going online and picking up some aftermarket parts. But that is just my personal opinion on it. I get the whole point of, you know, you can't 3D print a whole kit because that, you know, defeats the purpose. But option parts, I just wish there was some type of rule in there that would let you, you know, use your own design parts, because I still think that's a little bit more, you know, you're doing more creativity when you make your own option parts. You know, the trick would be what percentage of the kit could actually be 3D printed, and I would suspect it'd be a fairly small percentage. Alright, so those are coming off. I'm just gonna give them a quick sanding here. The resin ones are definitely, a resin part 100% is a lot less work than scratch building it. I would say that using a regular like a CR10 printer to do it, honestly, the hassle of filler priming it and sanding it smooth so that it actually is decent, I mean, I think I've probably, you know, that was my first kit, and I wasn't really comfortable with doing any scratch building, so that's kind of why I went the 3D printed route. But I definitely don't think it saved me any time. You know, I'm leaning a lot more towards scratch building. So again, the example would be the shoulder pieces, right? Those could have easily been CAD'd up, and those, I mean, they're basic shapes, right? Would have taken 20 minutes to CAD that up and print it, but in the end, by the time I primed it and filled it and got it smooth, it just wasn't worth the effort. So Anycube do make nice resin printers. Probably I would end up getting an Elegoo Mars. I was looking at getting on the early launch of, I think it's a Saturn that they called it, but ended up not pulling the trigger on it. But I suspect any day I'll end up doing it. Alright, so I think that should do the trick here. Yeah, I saw that he was still on. I was kind of hoping that I would nab, the 9 o'clock time slot central here just to see, but it's all good. I don't mind just having a small group of people for the first one anyway. Get some feedback, see how it goes. But yeah, I saw he was on. I was watching him for a couple minutes earlier. I think he just got a resin printer too. Terry, thanks for coming out, man. Yeah, the backpack, like I said, I personally thought it was a little obnoxious. Chris, how's it going, man? Just talking about your 3D printer. But yeah, so originally, who did I see? I saw this piece right here, this kind of inlay piece. I saw on, what's the guy? He's doing Zaku right now. Anyway, he had on his backpack, he had one of those inlays, and I was just kind of playing around and thought, I want to just try that out, see if I can do it. And then I built the backpack. I thought it was obnoxious, but I still just wanted to try it. And then I just went for it, and now it's actually coming out quite nice. Like I said, wasn't a fan of it, but I'm going to keep going with it, see what happens. Fair enough. Again, it's okay. I don't mind having just a couple people on tonight until we get the hang of this anyway. Anyway, so yeah, like I was saying, I just wanted to clean up the little nubbins on the end of the barrel because I noticed that when I put it together, it was actually not symmetrical. So in theory, now that we shaved her down, everything should be symmetrical now. So we'll worry about detailing that up after. And then basically, so that's basically going to be the finished product. I just wanted to make the gun a little bit beefier on the bottom. Just the way the magnet attached, I thought it stuck out a little bit too high on the top and just needed something on the bottom here to kind of stretch it out. So that's what I went with. I'll probably do a little bit more detailing on here. Obviously, I got to get rid of the seams. And that thing broke off again. That sucks. So I put on, my idea behind this top piece is that it's, some type of energy cell or whatever, like a battery pack, and then you just pull it out and put a new one in. But I got kind of ahead of myself when I made the handles. I stuck them on when really I should just be waiting until I'm close to the end because I've knocked this thing off. Well, this is the first time I've knocked this one off, but I've knocked this other one off a couple times, so I'm just going to set that to the side and not worry about it right now. I'm sure I'm going to knock the other one off before we're done. Alright, so I'm just going to set this to the side for now and kind of come back to, this is the main rifle. So originally I wanted it so that the backpack would hold both the guns. Unfortunately, well, I don't think I'll ever have it in a pose where both guns are on the backpack. So I'm just going to go back to this guy. I've redone this guy a few times. The big piece was this bottom piece. I've scribed it a few times and I wasn't really happy with it, and I actually ripped it off and have put a new piece on. I just need to trim up the bottom piece here so that it's clean, and then I'll end up doing some scribing after on it as well. Like I was saying before, measurements and scaling. I guess I'm not. How am I dealing with measurements and scaling? Honestly, the only time I ever do any kind of measuring is straight up. I just use these jigs that I printed off. So as far as measuring goes, that's all I'm using for measuring distances and whatnot when I put things on. Same with scribing, but I basically wing it for the most part. Yeah, I just go for it and see how it ends up. Also, you can see in the stream that, you know, I am selling those jigs. I always want to remind everybody though that even though they are for sale, I do make the files freely available. Just trying to make it easier for everyone to get at them. Chris says, I meant when printing parts to go on existing pieces. For the 3D printing part, well, when it goes for printing parts, again, are we talking like when we add these 3D printed parts that I made, or something else, Chris? Most of the time, when it comes to the 3D printed parts, I basically will do a rough shape. So these rocket launchers that I did, you know, they just ended up being basically a rectangle that I printed off, just the rectangle. And then just a rectangle with a peg on it originally, just to kind of test fit it onto the side piece, and then just kind of go from there. I just take a look at it and look if it looks in scale, and then I go for it. Definitely not an expert when it comes to this stuff. Yeah, for sure. So I kind of find it the opposite. So I've been 3D printing now. So I got into Gundam based on 3D printing. So I've been doing all sorts of 3D printing for, I don't know how many, 3 or 4 years I've been printing. So I got in basically printing off 3D models and finishing them off like that. So here's an example of the Deadpool. And then, so what happened is, because of this actual Deadpool model, that I was on YouTube and I just looked up airbrushing, because I decided, you know, I was probably going to give it an airbrush finish. And next thing you know, I saw a guy airbrushing some Gundam models, and I was like, holy, that looks pretty cool. And what I really liked about it originally is I didn't have to finish the models. I've said it a few times, but finishing 3D prints is just a pain in the ass. So I wanted to try something else that didn't involve sanding. And so I did one Gundam model, airbrushed it, and thought it was pretty cool. And then now I've just kind of got the bug where I've just been going pretty hard for about 1.5 years. So, you know, originally I got into it so I could just quickly get it into the paint booth and paint it and practice painting. And then it was on that Jesta that I did that I think I came across Tim's, and I was like, what the hell is this thing? I want to do that. And then now I'm no further ahead because I spend just as much time customizing the models as I do painting them. I've only finished painting 3 models now, so that'll give you an idea of where I'm at with skill. So I'm definitely not the guy to come to for the answers. I'm very new to the hobby, but yeah, I'm just here having a good time. I figured I'm here on Saturday nights doing this anyway. Have the equipment, I might as well start up a live stream just to hang out with you guys and take it from there. Nice. Chris says, hey man, we something each other out. We went the opposite direction. I started with Gunpla and got into 3D printing this week. Yeah, I saw that. You're doing I saw the head anyway. Is that the Mars that you're printing with? I was gonna ask you. Got it. So that printer, is it by your workbench then? Do you have to? Are you venting it out? I guess. I've heard that there's been some fumes, and I kind of want to throw one in the back here, but I don't really want to deal with venting it out. Yeah, the Elegoo Mars. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the direction I'm going to go. I was looking at their new one. They have the Saturn, but for what I want to do with it, I don't think I need something with that much print volume. I'm just going to switch out the blade here because I seem to be scratching the hell out of this thing. Chris says the fumes have been very minimal. Granted, I'm in a well-ventilated area, but the only time I notice the fumes is if I open it up to clean the resin out or pour it out. Cool. How are you cleaning your prints right now? Just with alcohol in a tub, or do you have a setup for cleaning it? Says I'm using an ultrasonic cleaner with water, then a glass container with iso alcohol, run it for 3 minutes and soak in a degreaser. Then back in alcohol, then let it dry. Cool. Do you have, are you just using sunlight, or do you have a UV light to cure it? Right now, relying on sunlight, the UV light I own, or not the correct wavelength. You have a UV flashlight or something you were showing on stream the other day. But that's probably wouldn't work, I guess, hey? Oh, that sucks. Just took a big gouge out of it here. I have 1.2 for UV putty curing running at 5 volts, apparently at least 12 volts, and 405 nano something meters is needed for photopolymer resin. Good to know. Okay. So yeah, these are the sanding blocks that I was 3D printing. So it's part of the reason why I picked a very generic logo, because I wanted something that would 3D print easily. So for these ones, basically I just took my logo, and in Fusion 360 you can convert it into convert it into vector, and then you can bring in a vector file and you can extrude on that vector file. So I made a basic logo, brought it into Fusion 360, and then basically just shrunk it by 0.01 and then just slapped it in there, so it's just a friction fit. The new ones actually have the multiple colors, but it's funny that of all the things that I print, nice. Chris says, dude, I have the same idea. That's badass. So of all the things I print, these things are the biggest pain in the ass, and you think they'd be the simplest things. So the multicolor is just, I just grab blue filament, do the C, top of the C in blue. Yeah, I just literally have the original CR10. So it was actually, my wife gets mad at me because she says there's no way this is possible, but I bought it on, I think it was Banggood, and to be honest, I wasn't planning on buying it. I was just kind of checking it out in the evening before I was going to the gym, and maybe click next a couple too many times to see what it would cost, and next thing I know, the thing got shipped out to me by accident. She still doesn't believe me, but I swear I didn't plan on buying it yet. But yeah, so it's a funny story, because the first thing I got, the delivery guy shows up. So I got it shipped to work, and the delivery guy shows up, and I work in an IT department, and it's this box, and it's just held together by packing tape. And I'm like, there's no way that's a 3D printer, because the box was like loose and soft, and it was just in packing tape. And so whatever, I sign it, and the guy gives it to me, and I take it. I'm like, this thing is heavy. I want to know what's in this. So I take it to the back, and we open it up, and it was really long computer power supplies, but they weren't North American voltages, and they weren't North American plugs. And so I looked it up, and they're for Bitcoin mining in I think the powers for Norway is where they were, for somewhere like that. So I messaged the guy, and it was too much money for him to bother taking them back, so he let me keep them. He says, yeah, you can sell them online. And at first I thought he said they were worth $15,000, and I was like, holy. They were not worth $15,000, and they were worth a couple $100 on eBay. But he did end up, Banggood did ship me out a printer. It did show up eventually. The CR10s have a history of having a warped bed, so that was the other thing I was nervous about. But mine's been awesome. I took it out of the box, set it up, and was printing the very next 20 minutes in, and I've had no issues since. You can see on mine, on the screen there, it obviously has some mods to it. Mostly was just so that they'd be a little bit more quiet. So the CR10, the little stepper motors go right onto the metal frame, and when that thing starts moving, like, it is loud. So I put some stepper dampeners on it just to make it a little bit more quiet, and then I ended up ripping out all the fans, putting Noctura fans on it, a different blower housing, and then I also opened it up and swapped out all the power supply fans. Now that thing's nice and quiet, and it can print. No one knows it's running. I think it's just like anything, you get more enjoyment out of doing the customizing than you do the finished product or what it's producing. I find that for the longest time, printed fine, worked great, but yet I was still taking it apart and modifying it to try to make it better. Even though everything that I print, I was never going for a finished product because I'm always finishing it, doing the sanding and stuff afterwards. I started out using it to make props, so the first couple things that I made with it was a stormtrooper helmet, and then I made a tank trooper helmet, and then my favorite piece that I made was the actual Gray Fox, so Cyborg Ninja off of Metal Gear. And then that one actually didn't come with the little red LED piece in the middle, so that's one of the first things that I catted up was the circle with some plexiglass in it and some LEDs. So I'm having an odd thing happening where a vacuum happens between the FEP film and the LCD monitor, so the film sticks to the resin. Haven't affected the prints, but the sound is not pretty. No, I could imagine. Yeah, I don't have too much experience with resin printers at all, to be honest. I haven't even looked at it because I know the second I start researching, just like anything, once I research it, it ends up in the cart. So, I've watched the standard 3D printing YouTube videos that I get because of my 3D printer, but I'm smart this time. I'm just going to avoid it because I know as soon as I start looking, it's ending up in the cart. And then I got to tell my wife that I accidentally bought this resin printer again. And I don't think it'll work a second time. Yeah, Chris, your logo would probably actually work pretty good on a sanding stick. It's pretty good. That one little notch in the one corner might be the trick, but I think you should have no problem doing the exact same thing. Sandpaper's getting a little worn out here. Yeah, for sure. Have you done any CAD stuff yet? I know there's SketchUp and all that. I basically went with Fusion 360 because it does let you have a hobby license. So, it is AutoCAD, so it is kind of the industry standard. So that's what I went with, but I know there's a lot of other tools out there. Doesn't get much easier though, is like something if you haven't done a lot of CADing, right? That's something that can be done in SketchUp pretty quick. Nice. It says I surface model for a living, but I've dabbed in CAD a little bit. Yeah, it's one of those things that I started, as soon as I got my 3D printer, I was like, oh, I'm going to get serious. I'm going to start doing some CAD. And I did a couple things and went through a couple tutorials, but it was so much easier just to go and grab files and then boom, you had a finished product. But, it gets to a point where, I CAD everything I think my wife gets annoyed with me because everything I do, I CAD. Let's see here. Like, this thing is an example of, it's kind of a mess right now, but this is probably one of my favorite things that I CAD'd, so that was the actual intent right there. So that's just obviously my MadWorks chisels. Everyone complains that you have the holder and then you have all these tiny, they're individual, and it is a bit of a pain. So I set to kind of coming up with something that would do this. And so I'm actually pretty happy with the final product. I added magnets to it, so I do have this guy here, if we can get him out. So this is just kind of my catch-all right now for the sanding, whatnot. But yeah, magnetized it, so it's kind of cool. The idea was to actually do a bunch of them, but to be honest, those things take forever to print. I think that's the one thing when it comes to 3D printing that I didn't think about when I bought it is things take forever to print. You know, you see it on TV and you're like, hey, I can print something off and 2 hours later I'll have it. I set my printer up and I printed the test file, and I was sitting on the couch in the basement just watching TV waiting for it to finish, and at like 8 hours I looked over and it was like a third of the way done, and it was just printing one of those cats, like the Lucky Cat, you know, the one that has the pop or whatever. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, what did I get myself into? This is going to take forever. So those actually take about a day, 26 hours to print. So you know, that's the one thing I like about using it for the modeling is everything's smaller, right? Those rocket canisters on the Jesta took a couple hours to print, you know. That is true. I thought about casting them. I haven't got into casting yet. I mean, I'd like to. I think when it comes to the resin printing, if I do go down that road, I think I'll end up maybe casting the parts off of that, because I still think it's a more efficient way to do it, especially with the smaller print volumes of the printers. But I've never cast anything, so that would be a new thing. I looked at it before when I was doing more prop type stuff. I was going to make some casts for some of the helmets that I was making, but kids, man, I just never quite got around to doing it. So, but it's definitely something that I'd like to dabble in. I think that's pretty much good for now. Again, I'm just kind of randomly going about here working on some things. I didn't really have a plan for the stream, so we're just kind of cleaning up some things. We're getting real close on this guy, so I'm hoping to finish him up. He was kind of I usually go on Amazon to find my kits for a lot of them. Just I always just kind of search for the cheap stuff and then buy it again. Very little experience in the actual hobby itself, so as far as kits go, I just kind of grab the ones that people talk about if I can get them for a reasonable price. Originally on Christmas Day from USA Gundam store, I bought the Gyaradoga, and that was kind of what was going to be my next kit after the Jesta. Of course, they were back ordered, so I went on to Amazon and grabbed the Gym, and now I've been working on this guy for forever, but it's cool. I think that's the one thing that I like about it is I take forever to do the kits. Not necessarily that I'm slow at it, but I do just like taking my time. I'd rather do 1 or 2 kits a year. I was telling my buddy at work that, you know, a lot of people get into the hobby and they like collecting the kits and having a bunch of kits, but for me, it's more about just learning the craft itself. The number of kits that I have at the end doesn't really matter to me. In fact, I'd probably rather keep it to a few kits and then just give away the kits that as they get old or whatever. I just don't really have an interest in having, you know, 35 Gundam kits in my room, but that's just a personal preference. I think for me it's just about learning the techniques and moving on to the next kit. Terry says the only things I've modeled in CAD is more than 10 inches tall. Haha, we'll need to try my hands on small objects. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, I bought that CR10 because it has a huge build volume, and I thought, you know, I'll be printing my props off in one piece. And then I realized that takes time. Not really interested in leaving my printer on for days on end. I mean, it is just a cheap Chinese power supply. Within the first week, I actually broke off the lead that heats the bed, so I had to solder that back on. And since then, I've been kind of apprehensive to do anything where I leave it on. So you can see it in the actual screen right there, because I do use a tool called Octoprint, and it's just an open source, runs on a Pi 3 that lets me control the printer, lets me send files to it wirelessly. And then so what I've wired up is I have a smart plug that's on, so I can check this from home, and if it starts going, check it from work, and if it starts going crazy or I start seeing a bunch of filament spewing out, I can kill it from work using my smart plug. So I do let it print, but about 24 hours is kind of where I call the line on how much I want to actually have it running. But lately it's been going non-stop. Yeah. A lot of that's just been a lot of the tools that I've been printing off. Did not expect people to want them as much as they did, and did not keep up with supply and demand on that one. So I am just working on rebuilding the stock, and then I'll let people know that it's restocked, and if they want them, they can go ahead and get them. But did not expect that kind of outcome from putting those available. All right, I'm going to set that to the side. So speaking of 3D printing, so the backpack, I still have quite a bit of detailing to do on it. On the bottom here, I just want to add maybe some half round, just to kind of give it a little bit to fill out the bottom there. And I'll do a little bit of scribing on it as well. But this is another tool. Literally I 3D print everything, guys. So this is my half round scribing tool. So basically I just went into Fusion and made a bunch of circles and lopped them off at different sizes, and then one of them, stick the half round in the one that it fits, and then that gives me about 1.5 millimeters. So it just matches. Make sure that I don't have to measure when I scribe. I just put the scriber against it and go to town. I know that's super lazy, but I do actually not enjoy scribing half round. It always looks sloppy whenever I do it. So I thought, for the 20 minutes that it would take to CAD this up and print it, I figured why not. So yeah, that's what I used to scribe on my half round. Here is a bunch of my 3D printed stuff. So it's just a little bit ridiculous. So the cool thing about 3D printer is you can pretty much solve any problem. So as I'm learning, I'm trying to figure out ways to make it so that so I don't suck. A lot of Hero 148. Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. So this is just a 45-degree block. And what I did this for is when I surface, stick a plate on there, and if I didn't quite get my bevel right on it, it's a 45. So you can stick it along the edge and just clean up your bevel. Again, I just think of the stupidest things to use my 3D printer for when I'm sitting there. And then again, it's cool because you can CAD that out in about 2 seconds and have it ready to go. And then I just kind of did the same thing for, I think that's a 60, but that's more so hanging it off the edge, where if you wanted to bevel the edge of the backpack, you'd be able to sand it down and maintain a fairly even edge. Again, that's more so just because my hobby knife skills aren't the greatest yet, still working on it, and I usually come back and just clean it up a little bit. So what I want to do on this backpack to keep going on it is I added this top plate here, but it just kind of just ends right here, right? So it needs to have, I don't really feel like scribing along that edge because it is just a bunch of laminated layers, and history serves, when I try to do that, it ends up getting pretty sloppy. So what I'm going to do is just kind of hang a 1/2 mil plate along the edge here, just to kind of give it something, and then I can scribe around that. But before I do that, the other problem that I have with it, and you won't be able to pick it out, but you can see on the side my scribe, the scribe is straight, except the actual plate itself is a little bit fat on the bottom. So what I'm going to try to do is just even that out a bit more before I stick the plate on it. Sack yard. So which one would call more fun besides the quick outcome? Designing a part or actually scratch building it? I would say designing the part if I had a resin printer. I think that would be the ultimate. Again, I just really got tired of trying to do all the finish work on the parts that I've designed. If you see, on this guy, even if you can see it here, like this guy, like I did a lot of 3D printing on him. This thing is cool, this little side piece, but to get in that groove and actually finish it off so it was smooth was an absolute nightmare. And then you have this little piece that sticks out, and it was brutal trying to sand it and keep those edges nice and crisp. Like I said, you can make cool parts, but man, this thing would have been a lot slicker if it was resin printed. Again, on the bottom here, if you could actually see this bottom piece, it's not smooth. You can see the print lines in it, but there was just no way for me to get in there and actually smooth it out without ruining the part or making it look sloppy. So I knew I was going to weather the kit, so I decided just to kind of go with the flow. This top piece, also 3D printed. This one's kind of cool, and I posted about it early on Instagram, but this is actually from like wargaming, like tabletop games, and it was originally, I want to say it was a barrel, like a sci-fi barrel, but I just took it, put it into my slicer software, so into Cura, and then I just literally stretched it out, kept the height and width, but then just stretched the unit out, and it ended up making basically some type of tank. Wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with it, but again, this thing, I probably filler primed it 6 or 7 times, and by the time you get done, you have to rescribe in the lines. And at that time, I know you guys were talking about it in one of your streams, but all I had was the Tamiya scriber, right? So it was a bit of a nightmare to scribe that in. So it's cool, but I just kind of did it, attached it with magnets. But again, knowing what I know now, it would have been easier just to grab a 10 mil tube and then just add the detailing. It would have actually given me the same outcome. So yeah, that's the thing. The finishing sucks. These flat pieces aren't so bad, but again, if you look into that groove there was no way where I could actually get in there and do anything with it, right? So it's rough, but I knew I was gonna be weathering the kit a bit, so I just kind of went with it. You can't really tell. Again, these ones on the bottom, those parts were also 3D printed. I did this kit, well, like I said, this kit is kind of what introduced me to you guys, basically. So because of this kit is basically, I came across Tim's Jesta when I was just searching Instagram. I already had that kit and I was working on it, and then I just came across Tim's and I was like, whoa. And then it was kind of lights out from there, right? I started following his streams and then hooking up with all you guys and watching what you guys are doing, and that's where I kind of realized that 3D printing has its place, but it might not necessarily be all the time and for modeling, right? So yeah, so that's a long-winded answer, but modeling the part, if I could resin print it, I'd be down with. I'm getting away from doing any add-on part modeling. Right now I've strictly kept it to tools. The other thing is the gray area of when you can enter it into the competition, right? Eventually I'd like to be putting some of these kits into something, right? I kind of like the idea of the competition, so I don't want to get the crutch of 3D modeling and then have everything void and not be allowed to enter it in anything. So I'll do probably more modeling on kits that I just want to play with. Problem with that is I don't really have kits that I want to play with, because as soon as I start a kit, it kind of explodes to the point where I'm working on it forever anyway. Hence this backpack that was literally just playing around one night. But anyway, just gonna rough cut this guy. You know the scriber, and there again, I bought it because, the cutter, I bought it because I didn't know anything about anything, and I went on Amazon and searched scribing tool, and that's what popped up. I'm like, oh, Tamiya is a brand name that people use, and I've heard of that before. So I bought it, and yeah, it was brutal. It took some big gouges in my kits that didn't look so great after panel lining either, but you'll learn, right? That's the whole point of it, I guess. But it is a great cutter. Where I used it, or going to use it more, is I'm having a hard time with my hobby shop not being open right now, but I want to do some, what is it called? They have a plow plate that actually has the grooves in it, and I couldn't get any right now because again my hobby shop's closed, and there's not really anywhere that doesn't charge crazy shipping right now to get it to Canada. But using the Tamiya scriber, you can scribe those grooves in to have a little bit of detail on the plate. That's kind of what I was going for on the backpack. I was going to do it, but then I ended up just going with the plates. On the backpack itself, I don't know if I still have it. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I have it. So I actually 3D printed, where, not to be on the 3D printing train, but another place where the 3D printing is really useful when it comes to, you know, building your jigs is you can do cool shapes like triangle trusses. So if you want to transfer triangle trusses onto your styrene plate, so I have one and I can't find it right now, but it literally, I don't know where it is, but it's just a big long strip with alternating triangles so that you can build trusses, right? And then you just stick it on the plate, drill the holes in the corners, cut it out with your knife, and then just clean it up. And I did it on the backpack. I just wasn't overly happy with the look. Saki says it's a great tool to cut strips off styrene sheets. That and the Trumpster 1, which is a bit thinner and sharper. Unfamiliar with the Trumpster 1. Another thing that I use these blocks for is because I can just print another one, I'm okay sanding on them, so I'll put my half round on it and actually butt it up against and then sand it to make sure that I get a nice straight sand on the end. And yeah, like I was saying, so this is my first stream, getting a little bit more comfortable as we go here, but if anything's amiss, just let me know. So if the sound seems off or whatnot, just let me know and we can adjust on the fly here. Originally, so I've been trying to do live streaming now for a few months anyway, and you know, I didn't really want to spend too much money on it, so I have it running off 2 cell phones. Again, this one's running NDI, which is just a wireless technology, and then this overhead one is actually my daily phone, so it's an iPhone 11. And Julius, thanks for coming out, man. Yeah, so just my daily phone, so I'm doing the video on the cheap anyway. Again, I'm just gonna stick it into this plate here. Again, it's just a bunch of half rounds in different sizes, and then I'm just going to use my scriber to scribe it. I'll flip it around, put that end in, and that'll give me a perfect distance from the ends. The only problem is the setup puts my tools a lot further away so that I can get the cameras in here. I was trying to do this setup on, so I had a Surface 4, and it was not the greatest. The other thing that I was trying to do on my Surface as well is those videos that I did. So I did that video on the jig. I edited that using DaVinci Resolve on my Surface, and that video probably took me probably a month and a half to get done. It was just slow. So I have gone ahead and upgraded the computer, so as cheap as I could stream, I still had to end up getting a new computer, but it was time anyway. With all the Fusion 360 stuff that I was doing, it was time to get a new monitor. So doing all the CAD and stuff on a little Surface screen, I don't know if it's 14 inches or what it is, but again, it was time for the monitor upgrade. And it was the first time I haven't built a computer in 13 years. So my schooling is computer systems. So for 13 years I was systems specialist. So I got that job and I had zero desire to ever do anything with computers when I got home. You play on servers all day, the last thing you want to do is come home. So I was always a laptop guy just because I was didn't have the passion to work on the computers when I got home after working on them all day. And then I transitioned over to managing the software development section, and suddenly now it's not so bad to be playing on computers again. Plasticology, I use my S20 for vids with the iVcam app. I just started learning DaVinci though. Harder than I thought it'd be. Yeah, so I was using Lighthouse before DaVinci, and it was just my laptop could handle it and it was okay, but I just wasn't getting the results that I wanted. A lot of even in the last video that I did with the callouts, to do that in, is it Lightworks? Anyway, either one, it was free. And then the other problem that I had with it is you could only export the video in 720p, which for me isn't a big deal because I am just doing it on my iPhone 11, so it wasn't the end of the world. But DaVinci Resolve is just a game changer. It's so good for what it is, and it's free to use. You pay for the studio version, but that's more than I'll ever need for what I'm using it for. So I will be doing another video. So the next video that I've been asked to do is actually on the scribing jigs themselves. So I will be putting out a video on that one of these days. Again, it's kind of hard to find time to do all these little side projects that I'm working on, but we'll get it done. Again, I need to make sure that before I put that video out that I have the stock replenished, because like I said before, it just flew out in 2 days. Everything was pretty much gone, so get the stock up before we release another video. Learn from that one. If you do want the files, if you just search for Hi Craig on Thingiverse, they're all there. So I'm working on doing, where is it here? This guy. So this will be my next thing that I'm thinking about doing. It needs a lot of revisions on it. If you look at it, so it's a 45-degree sanding block, not sanding block, sanding guide, I guess. So basically, you put your double-sided tape down on this lip, put your sandpaper on it, and then it has this little piece here, which I want to work on, but basically, it lets you hold the piece right up against it, so you're not getting any wobble. And then you just slide it back and forth on your sandpaper to get your 45 bevel on it. I do want to make this available. I think the file is available on Thingiverse, but I'm not super happy with it yet. It's not something that I would even make you guys pay shipping on to get. I feel like it's just not quite there yet, but I don't know. I'm going to revise it a bit. Maybe send them out to some people. I did send Julius, I think I sent him out my scribe guides and jigs and sanding blocks before I put them available. I just wanted someone else to try them. He was interested, so I did send them his way. It'll be the same thing. The last thing I want to do is, with 3D printing, it's so finicky, is to send you out something and have it suck or have it snap right away, right? So we'll see. The other thing I'm curious is, so I live in Canada, so kind of the main reason why I started doing a lot of the 3D printed tools is, it's interest me, but B, I have a hell of a time getting access to any tools at a reasonable price. So that got me thinking too, is are there tools out there that you guys use or want to use, but you can't, get in North America for a reasonable price that, we could actually, come up with and 3D print ourselves? No, that's a question for you guys. If you have any tools that you think could be modeled out, let me know, and I'd be willing to take a stab at it. It doesn't hurt anything, right? If it's terrible, it's no worse than the tool you don't have, right? Plasticology says, good content, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, because so it's funny. I am a manager of a software development team, so I spend a lot of time in Zoom meetings. But there's instant feedback, right? So now I'm just sitting in front of my computer, talking to you guys, hoping that it is good content. So it's good to hear that. Julia says, Colin, thanks again for sending those out. Yeah, for sure. I'm just, this community is an interesting thing. And like I said, I've only been a part of it for a little bit, but it's a pretty cool little community that you guys have here. And if I can give back to it for, it's nothing off my back to send out a couple 3D printed things and, let you guys try them out. I just want to give back to the community, basically, the best I can. So, yeah, no problem, man. I'm curious, Julius, when you start using them, how they are. I know I've had, like, this set here. These are the prototype set. And I don't think on yours they even have the 0 on them. I think they're just numbers, because I just wanted to add the strength to them. But I'm curious how yours hold up. Again, we're printing, it's plastic, right? Like, I could snap this if I wanted to, but obviously I don't want to. But these ones I've had since day one. They're the original ones that I printed off. Again, they are plastic, so they're not bulletproof. I know a couple of them I had to give them a little sanding on the edge just because I've nicked them with the scriber. But yeah, give it a try. Let me know how they work. Also, at any time, if you guys have them and you think that they could be improved in some way, that's cool. I kind of arbitrarily picked it. I made some prototypes before that were just a little bit too thick, and they really didn't do a very good job holding onto the parts. So that's why these ones, I think I made them 1mm. Just, again, can't take credit for the idea. I stole it from Tim. But Tim has all the plastic in the world to make his, and I do not. So I thought, let's 3D print these things and see how they work. So I think probably the one thing that I did notice about those files, or these jigs, is when you start slapping them on the Bandai kits, is all the Bandai kits are in 1mm increments, it seems. So you can slap something on. The example I have right here. So I added a plate to this guy, but before there's an actual guide right there, and when I slap this on it, I don't have the right one, but I think it was 1mm or 1.5mm. It lined up exactly on the original line, and I found that with a lot of the kits, like when I just stick on the guides, everything seems to line up. So it's kind of cool to see that, the Bandai kits anyway, I don't know about the other ones, but everything kind of seems to be in that 1mm increment. So that's just something, useless information that I found once I started actually using something like that and not just a ruler. Alright, so see, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but using that guide, the lines are an equal distance apart now, because they basically just stick into this piece. I don't have to worry about slapping tape on, having the tape shift around on the half round, because I've had that happen before. And then we're just gonna stick them on here just to add a little bit of detail. Just taking a look at it here. I'm wondering if it might be a little bit too long to the point where, let me just see. Yeah, I don't know. I may have not been paying attention. I don't know if I want it to be that long on the bottom. I might lop it off on the one end and do it the one end again here, but we'll see. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm just thinking that it's a little bit too long, but it doesn't quite line up with this panel scribe, so it'll almost just look not quite as planned out. So I think what I'm going to do is just lop off this one end and just stick another scribe line on it here, if that makes sense. Saka says, hell yeah, man, quality videos and content. Don't worry about the volume of it. Most of us know that doing modeling and producing video content takes time. It sure does, especially when you got 2 kids. Although my kids are convinced they're going to be YouTube stars now because they saw Dad's video. Let's try it again. So again, I just stick it in there. I don't know what that is. If it's, let's see here. Yeah. So it's a 2 millimeters is what it is. How about Terry T says, have you got your kids to build anything yet? You know, my son is, I think he would be into it. I'm not too sure. He's big into Minecraft and any of the building stuff, so I feel like he'd have a knack for it. Again, my daughter, she is 5. She's more interested. She tells me she wants to build models and sell them in a store. I don't know what that means. If I showed her some of the Haros and I think the Hello Kitty one, I said, if they come on sale, Daddy will pick you one up. But I don't think she has it in her mind that she's going to be an entrepreneur and start selling these things. So I don't know if she wants to do the model or if she wants to open up a store. I don't know how I would handle my kids building right now. Just I don't know if it's like this with you guys, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I guess. So I don't know. We'll see. The other thing too, and this might be selfish, but it's kind of nice to sneak away and just kind of build in the basement for a bit once everyone goes to bed, right? That's just my kind of take on it. Once they're older, though, I'm totally down with it. Although I don't know if I want to give them an addiction either. Alright, I think that's better. We're just going to clean it up a bit here. Alright, so I made it a little bit smaller. Again, I just thought it was a little bit too long. So, cool. So let's grab some. Grab something. So I am normally a CA glue guy, but because this won't be touched after for a bit, I'm just gonna use the cement here so it has a little bit of time to cure. Alright, and that's what we end up with, just a little piece on the bottom here. Maybe. I'm not sure I like that actually now that I look at it. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll roll with it. We can always pull it off after if I decide to change it. Just something about it's just not vibing with me, but whatever. So the next thing that I'm going to do on the backpack is, again, just this side here. I'm just going to try to add a little bit of a build out, and that way then I can scribe around it after. And I'm going to do that with... Actually, you know what I need to do is, again, I was telling you guys that this scribe line here, the line is straight, but the plate isn't. It's just a little fat on the bottom on this side here, so. Getting better. Sounds like my wife is watching something hilarious on TV tonight. Or maybe there's just dogs barking in the neighborhood. Alright, Saki Art, thank you for popping in. I appreciate the support. Made it all good. Way less scary having some names that I recognize come in. So, thanks, man. Have a good night. There, so now, let's see, get used to this. You can see that it's a little bit better. I think you could go a little bit more. Cool. So my other problem that I have is this is 1 mil strip, and that's what this plate is, but I have a little bit of a concern that that might be a little bit too out there. I'm just thinking hanging off the side, and then we put that gun on it here, so let's just cut this down and have a look. So it would be on the side. Oh, might not be too bad. So again, because the gun butts up against it, I want to make sure that, yeah, I don't know. All right, let's have a look here. Just gonna grab some half. So I'm curious, you guys, for your build setups, do you guys have dedicated build areas? I know for myself, and I am going to make a video on it because overall I'm really happy with this stream setup, but it is my catch-all area. So my wife's given me 72 inches by whatever it is, 2.5 feet area for my hobby. So I have to be able to tear it down and move it around. It's also where my computer is, so when I do want to do video editing stuff, I do have to take it down. So are most of you guys rocking actual dedicated workbenches, or how do you guys do your setups? Alright. This thing right here, paid an arm and a leg to get it, but it's awesome. So this is just the Wave T-Square. Everyone knows about it. Everyone sought after the Elucid Wave T-Square. So I managed to get one. It's awesome. Picked this one up off of eBay. Not so awesome. I mean, it's fine, but it's not near as nice to work with personally. I don't like that this is actually plastic. So Terry T says, I do have a space, but it's for other things as well. Small apartment. I hear you. So when I go to paint, usually, basically I have my window right here, and I have a folding table that I'll lay out. This is actually, it's the kids' playroom. They don't really use it anymore, so I've managed to slowly, it was my office, it became a kids' playroom. Now I've slowly made it into my office again. So when I do paint, I do have to set up the whole setup every time. It's a bit of a pain. I have a garage, but again, I live in Canada, so I can't paint in the garage in the winter, that's for sure. Alright, what we're going to do, we're just going to do this first, see what this looks like. I don't know about you guys, but I started watching Tim's streams, and now I'm going tool broke. But again, this is another tool that I picked up off of his stream, and it's awesome. Yeah. So I'm just gonna cut it at a 45. It's just gives it a little bit of, I just like that look. So what we'll do is chop that down. Wait a minute, that's not half either though, that's 1 mil. that. So as far as my styrene sheet goes, I basically buy it off eBay. Again, it's just to get stuff shipped here is brutal, so it's kind of hit or miss whether it's any good. Some of it's great, and then some of it is, I don't know what it is, but when you try describing it, it's rough and bounces all over the place with your scriber, and it's not the greatest stuff, but it's cheap. It's definitely cheap. Well, that didn't work out, did it? And again, I'm short on strip. Ideally, this would be nice if it was a strip, but we're just going to make our own. Maybe. Brutal. There we go. All right. Let's try that. Yeah, so I'm just going to do half. I plan to do a little bit more plating on here as well, so I don't want a big plate sticking off the side here. I'll do a little bit of scribing there after. Come on. There we go. Now, trying to decide how I want to glue this on. We'll roll with this. Hopefully we get it first try. I think we did her. Maybe. Cool. So we'll just clean that up after. It's just going to overhang. Looks like I could have done a tiny bit better on the edge, but we're going to bevel that anyway, so we should be okay. Should be. Right at the edge. Cool. And then just I don't know what this angle works out to be, but I'm a bit of a cut first, ask questions later. We're just gonna do this and see. Oh yeah, sweet. I tend to always do 45s, and that's clearly what I did here. Is I made this a 45 angle, and then oh yeah, sweet. That actually worked out better. So I must have made it a 45 originally, and now it is gonna work out exactly how I want it to. So that's awesome. Stick this guy on here. I'm too much glue. Alright. And don't mind the cutting mat. This thing is an original. I do have a new one ordered. I've stuck enough things on it that it's coming all apart. Whoa. Tend to get super glue stuck on it, styrene, and then yeah, it's just a mess right now. So I'm just gonna fill this gap with a little bit of super glue, or a shit ton of super glue. All right, so and then I'm gonna hit it with the Instaset. So this is what I have. Instaset. Nothing new. Unfortunately, I don't have a better bottle than this one seems to be plugged. So this is what I got from Amazon. I was hoping more for like a needle tip. So what this does is it does do a drop, but you just got to do it real slow. Actually, it looks like I must have got some super glue in the tip, so it's coming out nice and slow actually. Pro tip, get super glue stuck in the tip of your Instaset. So I'm just going to take this piece off and stick it over here. So I stick a bunch of my stuff on usually with Fun Tack. So I did have a vent there that was just with Fun Tack. Fun Tack, Blue Tack. And now we're just going to hit the back here too because I didn't get the back. But BSI and Instaset, again, another one of those things that it's not as easy as you would think. I hear you guys in the States talking about, oh, BSI, you just pick it up there. It's selling everywhere. Not so much in Canada, but the Instaset is the best. That's changed my life when it comes to building. Being able to put something down and then immediately get back to work on it is awesome. I think I paid, mine came from California, and I think I paid $18 for the big bottle, but whatever it was well worth it. Just gonna pull out my USA Gundam Store nippers. So cool thing about these, I mean, you guys have all seen the Gundam, they're the USA nippers, but they were doing, I don't know if they're still doing it, but free shipping on orders over, or buy the nippers, get free shipping, right? Well, to ship to Canada, the best shipping you can get is about $38 or something like that. So I don't know how many pairs of nippers I'm going to have when it's done, but, or if they're still doing that promotion, but it's definitely was worth getting the nippers versus paying the shipping, so. So now I'm just kind of cleaning up this part here. So there's a bit of overhang, so I'm gonna have to actually, I don't know if you can see that, but right here, actually wasn't thinking and I plated past where this plate is. So I'm just gonna have to clean it up and then just cut it off here, I think. See if I can do it actually half decent. Like that, maybe, eh? Maybe. I don't know. So let me ask you this, guys. So this is at 1% zoom. Let me make it better. Whoa. Tell me what you guys prefer. That's 1%. If I do this, let's try that. So that is a little bit more zoomed in. Do you guys have a preference on what's better for you guys? Just a question. again, this is the first stream, so any feedback, we'll make it happen here. And there was some. You like the okay, cool. So that's cool. So I can rock that. That's no problem. I was using the further out zoom just it was a lot easier. I'll end up doing this, right, and be like, hey, put in the shot. But that's cool. What I'll end up doing is probably just grabbing a Sharpie or whatever and kind of marking the area. Check this out here. I have this fell out of my bin. So of all the ridiculous things in the world to 3D print, so this is my micro sander, I guess. So again, I don't know why I made that, but I can, so I did. So basically it's just a really tiny sander that lets you get in between the areas. A good example where I'll use it, just on the top of the barrel in there, and there's a spot right in here where it's kind of raised, and I'll probably end up just making another one that fits perfectly in there. I'll just measure that out and print it. Takes less than a minute to print something that small, but again, you guys will get annoyed with the stuff that I print, but if you have it, you might as well use it, right? I'll say I wasn't too sure. Like, I bought the 3D printer and it was just kind of again, an accidental purchase, but that thing has paid for itself in so many different ways. The rig holding up this camera, let's see here, check this out. So this is my ghetto setup here. This piece right here, I actually made that last night to hold my phone, and I made this little piece here. These arms are actually, well, here, let's do this. There, now you can see better. So this whole setup is 3D printed. This is a regular camera tripod right here, and up on the piece here was the block. So basically it has the standard camera nut sticking out, so I had to make this block fit these arms so that I could actually mount it onto my tripod. But yeah, like I said, it's weird nowadays because I just think all the time, if I can just make it, then maybe we can just make it. Now you can do this same setup obviously with purchased parts for, reasonably priced as well, but again, that's just, if I can make it, I tend to make it. But I guess that's the inherent nature of the hobby too, right? If you weren't into making things and just doing things your own way or making them how you want to make it, you probably wouldn't be building giant robots, would you? Yeah, so I just gotta get used to doing it in the Zoom, but we'll get her. I do have, so when I decided I wanted to stream, I went on to, so first I tried to do it with my Surface, and having this NDI camera, it just couldn't handle it. It was killing the CPU. So like I said, I do have a new computer right now with a Ryzen 3600. So as economy as I'm doing this stream, the PC is brand new, and I'm telling you, it's been a long time since I've had a high-end computer, and man, you don't realize how much you miss the ability just to do things when you want to do them. I had my Surface because it was a part of another business that we were running, and we needed to, have laptops out in the field. And the Surface has its place too, right? So I'm trying to do a lot more sketching and design on the Surface with the pen. But yeah, nothing beats just having 32 gig of RAM, 3600, and an actual video card that can render video. Are you still on, Terry? I'm curious on what you use for your digital sketching. just filling in the seam with a little bit of super glue. All right. Probably what I could do is I could raise the arm up a little bit too. That would give me a little bit more area, kind of compromise, get the best of both here where so Alright, and probably just a couple more minutes here. We'll shut her down, I think. So, and that's what I was talking where I just want a bit. Let me see if I can get that to focus. Focus? Yeah. So, I just wanted a bit of a wrap around there, and then I'll scribe. I might play with this corner here. Not super happy. I might come across and angle it across this way, so come across like that, just to give it a bit more of a 45 like that. I think that's probably what I'm gonna do. Can I do that with, let me just see here. So these are the 45-degree jigs. I don't think I'll be able to do it. So the one thing I think about these jigs is this lip is nice and all, and it does help it keep it in place, but I have found a couple times where I just wish it was like, 1 mil, 1.5. So I don't know if I'm just going to cut these down with my knife, because again, this doesn't have to be at the perfect edge. This is what you're using. So I'm thinking about just cutting these down and then printing some more and seeing how that works, but we'll see. Yeah, okay, so that does work like that. So check this out. Let's just find one that. So, is that gonna do it? I need, what's the smallest one I have? So you'll see that these 45s, they're mirrored. Julius, what's my schedule gonna be? Impromptu. No, I think I'm gonna do some impromptu ones. I'm trying not to step on anyone's toes. I think probably I'm in Central Time, so 9 o'clock, 9, 10, kind of this time zone, once a week, hopefully. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Again, it's just scheduling wise as far as like what I can fit into my schedule. And then the other thing too is I don't want to necessarily step on other people's toes, and a lot of the people that we follow, they have pretty set streaming schedules, but we'll see. At least once a week is where I would like to take it. So what I'm trying to find, so like I was saying, is these are, show you an example of, so here's a 45 traditionally, and I know Tim was talking to me about this on his stream, I don't know, a few weeks ago. He said, why don't you tee it, right? And that's what he was talking about when he was talking about the scribes, is why aren't they teed? Because then the nice thing is, you could slap something on it, do a 45 on that end, move it over, boom, perfect mirror, right? And it makes total sense. And the reason that I don't do it is because of this. So if you look at these scribe guides. This one needs to pause. Well, that's all right. So here we go. So that's one. It's just an L shape. And the reason why I don't T it is because when I print it, if I print it up like that and had the T on the bottom, it would print. But the problem is you got to remember that they're printing in layers, right? So like it goes like every layer at 0.08 millimeters, right? And so what would happen is when you get to this edge right here, is it would be jagged and not smooth, right? So how I print them is I print them flat so that this outer edge is one flat line, the way the extruder goes across it. So that's why they're not teed. The downside of that is you need to have duplicate everything, right? So every one of these jigs is mirrored, right? So, and that I was trying to explain that in TimStream, but it's really hard to explain that kind of concept. But what I'm looking for is the mirror of this guy right here, the one, because in theory, maybe he's in here. Okay. Well, I'll show you what there's a small one. I don't think that's going to do it. So check this out. So, no, that is not the right one either. Yeah, okay. So, where you can use these guides, if I grab a pencil. Alright, check it out. So you can actually just use it. It's a scribe guide, but I find that with the 45s, I tend to use it as a drawing mechanism versus anything to just pencil in my lines, right? So that tells me there that that'll just give me a nice clean 45 if I cut that piece of plastic off. But obviously I need to find the smaller piece because I need to line it up a bit better, but give you an idea of what I'm going for there. Alright, so I'm just going to erase that one for now. I don't know, we'll see, maybe I'll do that. Probably what I'll try to do is match up this angle here, right here. So whatever that looks like, if I'll just maybe get a piece of Dymo tape to that length. And it should be 45 though, just the way everything lined up. But I might be wrong, whatever. But before we do that, what we can do now is test it. So again, my concern was with the gun on it, that there'd be a bit. So the gun does angle in a tiny bit more, but it's pretty manageable if I can just find the piece here. So I'm using this as my stop. So what happens is, because obviously the weight of the gun, you stick it on there, it wants to go like that, right? That's not a good look, right? We want it vertical. So what I'm using for the interim, and this might be my actual final design, is I'm just sticking this guy in here. And what happens is it goes on like that, kind of goes in there, and then boom, holds it up at the right angle, right? And I'll figure that out once I do some more of the plating here. But yeah, so you can see, let's see if that'll, whoa. Yeah, it's not quite as clean as it was before, but that's okay, I'm okay with that. You look at it from that end, you can see the gun is angled in a bit more. But there will be plating going on here, right? That'll be 1 mil, so it'll actually, depending on where I put the plating, will actually make the gun sit how I want it to sit anyway. Cool. All right. Cool. So, what time is it? It's 11 o'clock my time. On that note, I'm gonna go to this camera and do the one camera shot. So I want to thank everyone that did come out to the stream. Super nerve-wracking, but I appreciate everybody that came to show some support. I will be doing this again probably on Saturdays, I would think. That's kind of the goal. If you guys have any feedback or comments on the stream, again, let me know. I'm open to making changes. It's just something I'm doing for fun. I'm already here building. I might as well hang out with you guys. I find that talking about the build actually helps me think about what I want to actually do versus just kind of muddling through it. If music in the background, we can look into that. Royalty-free music, cool. If you want jigs, sanding blocks, what else do we have in the? I think that's all I have. I only have 3 things in there. These are all available on Thingiverse. Just search High Craig. Actually, the sanding blocks aren't, because I didn't think anybody would want sanding blocks with my logo on them. But I've had these are in the store, so highcraig.storeenvy.com. You can get all of them. If you do buy from the store, buy a lot. I know it sounds silly, but it's flat rate shipping for the small plastic pieces. So if you're gonna buy a $6 jig and pay $6 shipping or whatever works out with the shipping and handling, you might as well buy multiple sets. They are plastic. It just makes sense. It's not a money grab. It just makes sense. I don't really advertise that it's flat shipping, so it is. So the more you buy, the better you come out ahead. But yeah, highcraig.storeenvy.com. It's just an alternate method. I just want to make sure that everyone can get the tools. North America, I struggle getting the tools that I want. I haven't seen actual scribe guides before. So, shouldn't say I haven't seen scribe guides before. Tim invented the scribe guide as far as I'm concerned. So that's what I'm going with. I just didn't have enough plastic to make them in all the different iterations. So anyway, I digress. Again, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Next Saturday, we'll try it again, hopefully, if everyone goes to bed on time. But I will see you guys in the other stream. So thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out.